Hello, welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Caw, and I'm delighted to be joined by Record Sports Keith Jackson.
Hi, Daniel.
How's it going?
All right, I've been kicked out of my own office by JJ Abrahams again, and apart from that, yeah, everyone's good.
Need to start charging him rent.
Ridiculous, isn't it?
Aye, it's pretty bad. Well, we are also joined by Record Sports Scott Burns. Burnsy, how's it going?
Good, yourselves?
Very good, thanks. This must be like Christmas time to you. You're the transfer guru. The transfer window is open.
I've got to say, I've got more concerned about Keith at this moment in time. It looks like his elbow's on fire.
Do you know what they
Bunsy, you're the guy that's red hot at this time of year, son. Get Bunsy out the box. Get Bunsy out the box. Transfer time.
What they say as well, Burnsy, but Keith, it looks like he's got the Wimbledon winners trophy on his wall. If you look behind them there, no doubt we'll get people saying that now.
Ladies champion.
Yeah.
It could be World War III as well. So let's try and cheer everyone up, guys. I mentioned I mentioned that you are the transfer guru, Burnsy. What can you tell us? What have you got in your gift bag of goodies today?
What have I got in my gift bag of goodies?
Is that even a phrase? Gift bag of goodies? Anyway, you know what I mean.
Gift bag. I know what you're getting at. I know what you're getting at. Nothing happening. It's quiet. It's honestly, it's dead. Where is a toenail? Is the transfer window open yet?
It's officially open, up and running.
No. I think you'll see it's starting to kick into life in it up here. I mean, Rangers are back pre-season tomorrow. Will they have new faces in? I would suspect that they will have at least one. Max Aarons, I would suspect, will be there for the first day. Up on loan from Bournemouth, I would expect that one to be done. Hopefully, as I said, hopefully should be out in the training pitch tomorrow. Will he be followed by a few others in the coming days? I think that Rangers might have to wait a wee bit longer in terms of players coming in just now, but they're obviously working on deals, but it seems to be a bit of an issue getting things over the line as it stands. I mean, obviously a lot of the players they're targeting are coming from down south where the wages are far higher, and I mean, Rangers have obviously, new owners have got a bit of finance behind them as well, but I still think that financially they're trying to balance the books as well and try to get players out to reduce that wage bill before they bring other players in at this moment in time.
That's an important point to make as well, Keith, because an exclusive today before we come on live on Record Sport Online regards Nico Raskin and potential interest from down south. Yeah,
I'll be interested to hear Bunsy's point of view on this. I've written a story, which is, as you said, just gone up online just now. Wolves are ready to enter the bidding if Rangers decide that they want to take the option on of selling Raskin this summer. Obviously, I think there's talks about trying to get him tied up on an extended contract, which I think would probably be Russell Martin's first choice. But if he doesn't sign a new contract, he's got 2 years left. So this feels like an optimum moment. Now, the story that I've written, Daniel, just actually it shows that Wolves have been in and around Raskin's camp for about 18 months now. He has known about the interest, and I think, I know that his preferred destination, if he does leave Rangers this summer, would be the English Premier League. Wolves are obviously invested quite a lot of time. They've been monitoring. There's been a change of leadership structure at Wolves this summer, but the former Everton defender, Matty Jackson, has basically been promoted to head of recruitment, and he has been aware of the sort of Raskin situation. He's been one of the guys that was monitoring previously. So Raskin is very much a live issue at Wolves if it gets to the point, if it becomes clear that Rangers are ready to sell. Obviously, Aston Villa, I think, are sniffing around the picture as well. I don't think Wolves would just sit back and let a City rival get in front of them on this one. So, but as I said, first and foremost, Rangers need to make this decision over Raskin's future, or he needs to decide if he wants to extend his contract. Burnsy, what have you, does that tie in with you here? Have you been aware of this sort of long-running interest from Wolves?
Yeah, they certainly were, and I mean that runs past to, as you say, the former sporting director into the current regime. It's, as you say, well, it's certainly. I mean, you said 18 months. It's certainly been a good few months that they've been watching Nico Raskin, and obviously it helps with him breaking into the Belgium squad. You know what I mean? That also, and that puts his value up. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But I mean, when you say it's up to Nico Raskin, I suspect if a bid comes in from a top club in a top league, he will want to go. I think it's more about people hitting the figures that Rangers are looking for, where they can reinvest, and maybe if they could sell him for a decent price and bring in 2 or 3 quality players, then that would probably make sense as it stands for Russell Martin to really kick off his revolution sort of thing.
What sort of price do you think Rangers can fetch for him if they do sell this summer, Scott?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I mean, I could be wrong, but I was at holiday last week. But I mean, I genuinely don't know. I think 10 to 12 million. I know people are talking a lot higher. I think what goes against him is his physicality. I think that will put a lot of the bigger clubs off. But that is still, I mean, if you were getting to those sort of levels, then I think that's a decent return. You know what I mean? But when I see somebody Sweekit has said Rangers going to get 2 to 3 million maximum from for Raskin. He's from a Celtic persuasion.
That's followed up by London lad in the comments who says 30 million. So there you go, right, both ends of the spectrum.
Well, at least I've got somewhere in between.
We've actually got plenty of comments on this story already, Keith, if I'll run through a couple of them.
Yeah.
John says, if Rangers seriously consider selling Raskin in this window, has to be for silly money, 20 million minimum. Raymond says, if I think if Wolves or Aston Villa seriously offer anything in the region of 15 million for Raskin, they should take the money and run. Michelle says, selling Raskin would be a massive blow to Martin. The team should be built around him.
Listen, I don't have any doubt about that, and I'm sure that Russell Martin wants to keep Nico Raskin at the club. But it's he might be a bit of a hostage to fate here, the manager, because these things, once they get a bit of momentum, Scott's absolutely right. Nico Raskin has got ambitions to play in the English Premier League, to be perfectly frank, and you just wonder if this feels like the right time. There will be a counter argument, I'm sure, that Russell Martin is putting it forward to the Rangers board right now, which is keep him for another season, try and extend his contract, keep him for another season, let him go to the World Cup with Belgium, and then cash in. And you could see the sense in that, because at that point, 15 million could become 20 or 25. But I think Burnsy's probably spot on in his assessment. I think somewhere in the region between 10 and 15 million pounds is achievable this summer. And if Raskin's not going to commit, then Rangers really have to do the business, because they've kind of allowed themselves to get caught in these situations previously where guys run down the contract, and players that you think are financial assets have been allowed to leave for nothing. That can't happen again. Mm-hmm. So it is decision time one way or the other. And if it is decided that now's the time to invite bids, then I would expect that Wolves will be pretty near the front of that queue.
Well, sorry, I had to mute you there, Burnsy. There was a bit of feedback. But while we're on Rangers, Keith.
Burnsy's got the nicked internet again off the neighbour's Wi-Fi.
There you go. Look, getting that crackling. Burnsy, I think it might be your headphones, but there you go. Maybe I could be wrong. Keith, Rangers, while we're on them, John Suter. Obviously, you broke the story last week regarding his delayed surgery, and we had a very strong response from Rangers fans. The Rangers manager has come out and had his say.
Yeah, and he certainly confirmed our story, Daniel, that John Suter did require a hernia op, which he waited until after the Scotland games because he wanted to play in the friendlies, or at least one of them, against Iceland. Then travelled to Liechtenstein. Listen, you've heard my view on it. I find it bizarre. I also find it a bit strange. I think Russell Martin's a really good talker. He kind of, I'm not saying he threw John Suter under a bus, but he kind of did by making it absolutely clear that this was John's decision, and John wanted to to play or to be involved in the Scotland squad. Now, he was sort of praising him for that, but I'm not entirely sure that Russell Martin's attitude, would be one of great cheer over the fact that his star centre-half, his best central defender, is not ready to start the pre-season. He could have been, he should have been. And the curious thing with this is, it's almost as if people are asking you to believe that not only did John sort of source his own surgeon, book his own appointment, and then pay for his own operation. And that's just not the way it happens. The Rangers medical department, these guys are all insured. So there would be an insurance policy that would have covered this and covered the cost of the operation. Ultimately, it's the Rangers medical team that booked the surgery. To suggest that John Souttar's kind of gone rogue and done this is just not right.
I completely agree with you. I think it's such a strange story with such a massive game. I know it's still a few weeks away, the Panathinaikos game.
Well, as I said previously, I really hope for John Souttar's sake, because I think he's a nice big guy, and he's a very good defender. He's a key part of this Rangers team as things currently stand before Russell Martin and the recruitment department get to work this summer. So the best thing that can happen here is that he recovers. The rehab goes without any hitches, and he's available for selection when Panathinaikos come to Ibrox for the first leg. Because if that's not the case, it is going to get messy.
Aye, definitely. Let's see if Burnsy's audio sorted out. Oh,
hello.
There he is.
No.
I'm getting a wee bit of feedback.
You're worse than dead coach.
This will work. Hold on. Burnsy, tell us, we've talked about Rangers. Celtic, I understand, are keen on Andy Irving, or certainly that's the reports today, West Ham midfielder.
Well, it would certainly fill into what Brendan Rodgers is looking for that this summer. Two central midfielders are definitely on his wish list, and a winger, and he's obviously well on the road with his winger when he's got a Benjamin Nygren, used to be done from Northland. That should be expected to be confirmed this week. But Andy Irving is one who make his Scotland debut out in Luxembourg. He's obviously been in at West Ham. He's one that he's a neat and tidy player, isn't he? He's played a few games for West Ham now, and he also fits the homegrown bill, which is important for the European stage now for this Celtic squad. So I don't think it would be a bad bit of business, but certainly Brendan Rodgers wants to get two in that area, a defensive midfielder and a box-to-box midfielder. So you would expect that one to tick the boxes in there.
Are you expecting, Scott, a centre-half to be on Brendan Rodgers' list as well?
I think that's dependent on players going out. I think there's Naroki, Stephen Welsh. You've still got a few there. You put the wages together, they're still quite heavy. So if you get rid of 2 or 3 of them, then you could probably look to bring in one decent quality centre-half. The other one might be as well that Trusty, will he remain at Celtic Park? He fell at the picture there at the end of the season. Celtic paid a lot of money for Austin Trusty, and he hasn't been getting a game. I don't think he'll be happy to sit on the bench. So does start the season.
The one thing we lost you a wee bit there, Burnsy, but the one thing that Ross, I think, speaks for a lot of Celtic fans, could be wrong, but he says in the comments, why are we signing players that are not going to prove our first team? We need Champions League level signings. I mean, you're in and around a lot of these transfers, Burnsy. Do you anticipate Celtic maybe upping the level of spending a little bit?
You would expect them to, wouldn't you? Because, I mean, obviously Kieran Tierney's at that level. He's come in, he's won. You know what I mean? Benjamin Nygren, I think he's 23. He's Swedish international. He's certainly one for the future, one with a future value. But I think he can now. But I still think that Celtic fans will be looking for another signing with X Factor. They obviously got the young Fulham striker Callum Osman come in. Ross Duhan's come in from Aberdeen as well. But at least one X Factor signing to come in.
What do you think, Keith? Do you think Celtic will get that X Factor signing?
Yeah, I think so. Look, do you know, it's going to be interesting. I know that you were speaking to Andy Newport earlier today to get his thoughts ahead of the Rangers EGM tomorrow. I've written a column tomorrow, Daniel, basically saying tomorrow's a really interesting, could be a key day for Celtic, because Peter Lawwell, Michael Nicholson, they will be watching closely and listening very carefully to all the noises coming out of this new Rangers regime. Andrew Kavanagh will meet the shareholders for the first time at the EGM. Parag Marath will also be there as vice chairman, and he's the link right into the 49ers. I think it's really interesting from a Celtic perspective to get a measure for what these guys are saying, what they're sounding like, what they're promising, because Celtic might have to sort of shape their response to this based around what they think's coming at them from this new Rangers regime. And I think that's going to be fascinating. Now, obviously, this part of this EGM, one of the sort of key threads of it will be to accept a resolution which will mean that they can invest £20 million into this summer's transfer kit. Now, I would imagine that's £20 million which goes in on top of a budget that was already there. If they do choose to sell Nicolas Raskin, who knows how much money comes in there, they're going to have some money to play with. It's not ridiculous. They're not coming at it and going to spend ludicrous numbers. But there is the potential for some fairly serious budget over the course of the next few weeks. And I think Celtic just now, they're getting one or two bits of business done. We expect Nygren and Osmond will be done this week. But yeah, I think somewhere along the line that there could be a major. And I still get this thing that I think Brendan Rodgers will have one eye fixed on a real quality striker. And I think that could be the big deal that Celtic fans that will really excite them this summer. Because they've not replaced Kyogo. I think that the plan is to get Maida back onto his kind of wide man duties out in the left-hand side. I think Celtic will have one eye on a real top-grade striker, or as top as you can get, because this is Scottish football. But yeah, significant money. I can see that. I'm also not sure with Burnsy. I do think that Brendan Rodgers will want a centre-half to bolster his options. I think he's perfectly relaxed about Cameron Carter-Vickers, even though there was a lot of speculation coming from down south at Leeds United and Sunderland. I think West Ham as well, Burnsy, have been quoted with interest. But I think that Celtic are relaxed about it. I don't think that Brendan Rodgers believes that anything is imminent there. And I think that he feels fairly settled that Cameron Carter-Vickers is happy. He's got a long contract at Celtic. So, there's position number one in terms of your centre-half. I think Brendan Rodgers would like a player of a similar level to partner Cameron Carter-Vickers on the left-hand side of Celtic's defence. I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that over the next few weeks as well.
Burnsy, will we see if your Wi-Fi is any better now?
I don't know if that's any better or not. I've just moved into the... Hopefully.
On Keith's point about Celtic centre-half, what do you think?
I think he's got a point, and I think that if Celtic want to go to that next stage, they need to get a centre-half who is at the same level as Cameron Carter-Vickers. Liam Scales has been in and out. He's done well since he came in from Aberdeen, but I think you need to go one step beyond that. And Austin Trusty has been in and has looked good at times, and at other times Brendan Rodgers has taken him out the firing line sort of thing. So he's remained unconvincing. So I think unless he hits those levels, I still think that he's right that Celtic do need another centre-half to go next to Cameron Carter-Vickers if they really want to kick on to that next level in the Champions League.
And Burnsy, have you not got a bit of an exclusive as well about the one player that Rangers have managed to sign this summer?
I think my Wi-Fi's crashed again. Yeah, the Rangers' sole summer signing so far has been Lyle Cameron from Dundee. Unfortunately, he's picked up a bit of a minor knock. I'm told that he's got a calf strain and will miss the first week or so of Rangers pre-season camp. It's just a bit of a blow for Rangers, obviously looking for new faces. But in fairness to Lyle Cameron, he had been doing a lot of extra work to try and get himself ready to hit the ground running. But unfortunately, he's picked up a sort of calf issue which means that he'll be in the physio's room rather than out in the training pitch doing the hard yards with his new teammates.
Well, I can keep John company.
Aye, that's a good point, actually, Keith. Just before we let you go, Burnsy, I wanted to get your take on Dundee, because a few Dundee fans on social media have been a bit concerned by the lack of signing since Stephen Presley came in, but with their link up with Monterrey in Mexico, they could be seeing a few new faces this week.
There's 3 Mexicans from Monterrey's under-23 team have arrived in Scotland over the weekend, and they will be training with Stephen Presley's first team next week for the next 10 days. So just about a couple of weeks. And they are Jorge Landros and Jose Urias. Both of them are 19 and are midfield players. And the other one is a central defender who's a year old at 20 called Oscar Soto. So those 3 will be training with Dundee this week. They've already got, obviously, as you said, the link with Monterrey. They've got a couple of players on loan just now, Cesar Garcia and Victor Lopez. So it seems to be a road that the Dundee hierarchy are keen to go down. Either that or Gordon Strachan's got a holiday home out in Mexico. But no, there's been a couple of deals that have been quite good so far for Dundee. So it looks like another avenue that they're going down. And Stephen Presley's head coach will have a look at them and decide whether they will add to his squad. He said they got a couple of trialists in as well. Kyle McGuinness, the former Kilmarnock players, in, and there's a striker that was at Burnley as well. So they haven't done much, but they've signed Ray Wright and they've signed Digsby from Cambridge. But I expect to be a lot more work at Dens Park in the coming weeks.
That link up, Keith, with Monterrey is so weird. How does that even come about?
Holy guacamole. Listen, I don't know. Burnsy will probably give you a better idea. I'm sure that Gordon Strachan has put a lot of time and effort into Dundee, and I'm sure that he might have been involved in setting up some sort of pathway. I'm not sure, to be perfectly honest with you. But these are the things, these link-ups, if they're used well and exploited properly, they can be really helpful. And I think this will be quite fascinating to see, the standard player that comes into the ends on the back of that. Certainly explore all options. And I'm all for, you've got various clubs now. Hibs and Hearts have got links, Rangers sort of a link in there as well, if you like, with Leeds United because of the 49ers. You had Celtic plugged into Manchester City's data for long and I was going to say long and weary, but look at some of the players that Celtic managed to get out of that, and Ange Postecoglou, by the way.
Nice,
so
true.
The Scottish clubs need all the help they can get, and I'm all for kind of broadening the horizons and seeing if you can make something like this work in your favour. And we've had a period. Dundee have had periods in the past. I remember when there was the heavy sort of Argentinian presence in the team, including Claudio Caniggia. So they've had little phases like this. They've had their little experiments like this, and they've worked quite well previously. So here's hoping that the Mexicans are a kind of strong asset.
So I know I always say finally and then ask you something else, but Burnsy, very finally, Michael Taylor is asking anything to report on the Dons.
They've done a fair bit of business already, have they not? They've signed half of Australia. Now they've brought in 3 Australians and the fullback from Schalke. Yep, I would expect. The Dons come back for pre-season Wednesday, Thursday. I know they're trying to push a couple of deals over the line before then. One with a midfielder, one with a striker. So watch this space.
Burnsy, it is always a pleasure having you on the Hotline Live. Thank you very much for joining us as ever. If we could maybe replace that Wi-Fi you've got, which is currently 2 cans and a bit of string, that would be great for your next appearance.
And cheers, lads.
Cheers, Scott.
Thanks, Burnsy. All the best. Scott Burns there, Keith.
Wasn't sure if it was Scott Burns or Des Roach. I was just expecting the backdrop to start falling over and all that.
That's a very, very good point. Someone actually who's here, David Ross, says, amateur hour tonight, guys. Get Scott McD back, please. Listen, I'm not a cynical person, Keith, but I reckon that could be a burner account for a certain Scott McD.
Hi, Scott.
Aye, how's it going, Scott? Okay, we mentioned earlier on, Keith, obviously it's Rangers EGM tomorrow, extraordinary general meeting. I caught up a little bit earlier on with our Rangers correspondent, Andy Newport. Shall we hear what he had to say?
Yes, please.
Andy, thanks so much for joining us, as usual, in the Hotline Live. Tomorrow, it's a big day for Rangers. It's the dawn of a new era.
Yeah, I mean, this is when the Rangers support will, I suppose, get to hear from Andrew Kavanagh and Parag Marathi for the first time. They'll obviously be at the meeting in Glasgow tomorrow to address shareholders, and then there will be some kind of media event later on in the afternoon. So we're hoping to get to dig into the new guys' thoughts on the plans for the club. So it should be an intriguing day.
And so obviously this is an opportunity for the new owners to introduce themselves, really. But if you're a fan or a shareholder going along, I mean, what can they expect, really?
I mean, listen, it'll be these things, these EGMs. As we remember from a few years ago when Dave King and his allies assumed control, they're pretty. It's really just a formulate sort of a business procedure. It will just be to sort of get the nod on a couple of bits, a couple of resolutions that would just effectively allow the Americans to obviously hold a share issue that allow them to inject this £20 million. We believe there will be an opportunity for some of the shareholders to ask questions themselves. So, listen, I mean, as I say, it's just the first time we get to hear from them what their intentions are. Maybe lay out some detail, we hope, in terms of what they've got planned next. I mean, I suppose it all comes at the crux is what's going to happen with the team. You know, what sort of money is going to be allowed to be spent on the squad this summer. Obviously, not been too many new arrivals yet. Just Lyle Cameron. We believe Max Aarons is going to be coming through in a loan for Bournemouth any day now. But as we say, there's this huge game against Panathinaikos coming up in 4 weeks' time that is going to be absolutely crucial to everything that Rangers do this summer. They have to get through. They have to, at the very least, I would say, make the Europa League group stages. And there's obviously no guarantees with that, with these 3 rounds that Rangers need to negotiate. The new owners, there is money to spend. They're injecting. There was going to be money to spend anyway. I believe not much, but there would have been a portion of budget left aside for transfers this summer. Now we've got this additional £20 million. If they want to ramp up plans for this summer, it's absolutely crucial that they get into these, especially the Champions League phase. You can get there, you're looking at £40 million upwards, and that would be transformational, I would say, to Rangers. Spending power. They've not had anything close to that for 3-4 years now, and last time they didn't spend it too wisely. So it will be interesting to see if they can get their hands on those kind of sums, what they do with it.
Aye, absolutely. And just to finish up in the EGM, Andy, we understand that obviously a lot of the kind of big players for clubs don't always show face, but I think the rumour is that Andrew Kavanagh and Parag Marathi will both be there in person tomorrow.
Yeah, as I said, we're expecting to have a media conference with them later on. So we'll be there. Listen, I think you've seen, especially Andrew Kavanagh has been a familiar face at Ibrox over the last 3-4 months, ever since the news of his involvement in the takeover bid came through. I don't think he's going to be at every single game, but the sort of music we get from the people at the club and the people involved in the sort of American side of it, the 49ers guys that we've spoken to on a couple of occasions, they've made clear that these guys will be familiar faces at Ibrox. You will see them quite regularly sitting in the director's box, getting to know obviously the people running the club, but the people around the club, and who knows, even people trying to build these relationships with people at other clubs. As we've seen this week in terms of Rangers again, sort of loggerheads with SFA. I think they do need. There's a feeling at Ibrox that they need to work better politically if they want to get the kind of changes that they desire at Hampden. So I think you will see these guys around from quite a regular basis.
Before I let you go, Andy, I have to get your take on the story we broke at the top of the show involving Nicolas Raskin and reported a rumoured interest from Wolves. He was star man, obviously, for Rangers last season. I mean, if I was Russell Martin, I would want to build a team around him, but I guess that all depends on the money that might be offered for him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've said before, I've written before in the paper a lot that Nicolas Raskin has been Rangers' best performing player, certainly over the last 12 months. But like everyone at Ibrox, he's not immune from the criticism. There's been as many good games he had last season. He had games where he was disappointing and didn't influence the game as much as you Rangers fans would be hoping it would. So I said, if there's a sizable bid, and I think there's anything, I know a lot of fans are looking for 20 million, 25 million. I think anything north of 15 million is an offer that Rangers need to consider and give serious consideration for. I agree. I think it was Keith said last week that the club should be looking to hold on to the World Cup next year. If he can get himself into that Belgian squad, then his value, if he becomes a regular as he has been sort of recently, then his value will only sort of increase. And I can see the sense in that. But I think Rangers need to learn lessons from the past, and that is the dangers of holding on to players when you have sizable, decent offers on the table. And I think two and a half years ago cost them £2.5 million. So if you can get something that's going to, be multiples of that in terms of a return, I think they can't sniff their nose at that, turn their nose up at that. They have to back themselves to be able to go and find the replacements. That's what the club has failed to do far too many occasions in recent times. You think of Ryan Kent, you think of Alfredo Morelos. These were guys that there was at times huge money on, £80 million. I think it was from Nice for Morelos at one stage, and the club just didn't have the confidence to go and find somebody that could, provide the same level of goals and the same kind of, be the attacking spearhead that he was at that time. I think you'll find that this new regime come in, they've got obviously a new way of doing recruitment. I think they'll back themselves to go and get guys for decent money that are cheaper replacements and do that. So I think if there is proper money on the table, then you'll see the likes of Nicolas Raskin go, and they have to move on from this mindset of being too scared to let guys go because they're worried that they can't get the people in to replace them.
I get that I'm stitching you up here, Andy, and I'm asking you how long a piece of string is. But what's your gut feeling? Do you think Raskin will be there on the first day when the transfer window closes?
I think there's every chance he could move. I really do. I think he's shown in glimpses that he's a very big talent for such a little man that he is. I think he's definitely get levels to go up. Obviously, Russell Martin would like to see them do that primarily at Rangers this season, but I think he has got that potential. I think he has to become more consistent, though. I think that's, as I said earlier, I think that's his big flaw in his game right now, is that from one week to the next, you can get these sort of wild swings and levels. But definitely, you've seen the way he's settled into that Belgian national team. He's playing the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, and he doesn't look out of place there. But as I point back to, I remember I'm going to Parkhead and I'm looking terrific, obviously scoring a goal there on an Old Firm win, going to Istanbul, sort of helping Rangers run over the top of Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce, then going to Dens Park and going to St Mirren shortly afterwards and getting pretty much bullied in those two games. So that's where he needs to up his levels. That's where he needs to go. But as I think, obviously it's still very quiet, still very early in the window, isn't it? There's not been much happening anywhere. But I think you'll find that when things start getting motored, and especially down south, that always seems to be the big driver of even windows elsewhere. Once that starts getting going, I think you can see a wee bit more interest in Nicolas Raskin if this Wolves stuff does it already sort of signal the way it's going for him.
Andy, it is always a pleasure having you on the Hotline Live. Thanks so much for joining us.
No problem, pal. Thank you.
Andy Newport there a little bit earlier on. Keith David in the comment section says, as long as money brought in for Raskin is reinvested, that's fine. Same goes for anyone else at the club. And that's something, I know he made the point last week about James Tavernier, perhaps when he was at his highest after the Europa League final, Rangers should have considered moving him on. Again, I know I stitched Andy up with that hospital pass asking who he thinks Raskin will go. What do you think? Do you think Rangers will end up parting ways with Raskin this summer?
I think so. Look, is Nico Raskin settled and happy? Yes. So is he agitating to get away? No. Do I think that he'll sign an extended contract? No, I don't think so, because part of his career plan all along, he's had eyes on the Premier League in England. He's known about this interest from Wolves for 18 months at least, maybe even more than that. And he'll also know, gauging his own performance level, that he's hitting a level now which is pretty impressive, and it's catching attention from more than clubs in England. I think you've got likes of Fiorentina, Porto, and Marseille are looking. But I think his next destination in his own mind is England's Premier League. He's known about Wolves for some time. If he doesn't sign a new contract, I think he knows himself that now would be the optimum time for Rangers to sell. As much as if I was Russell Martin, I'd be urging the Americans, I'd be urging Kevin Thelwell to sit him down, put another couple of years on his contract, because I think the optimum time to sell will be, as I said, after he's played for Belgium at a World Cup. But Rangers need to get this sort of player trading model up and running at some sort of level. So yeah, as I said, Dan, if Rangers could keep him, I think they could make more money in the longer term. I suspect that now feels like the appropriate moment for Nico Raskin to try his luck in England and Rangers to cash in. Now, anywhere north of £10 million is not a bad return at all for a player that, as Andy said, I think it was less than £2 million Rangers paid for him. Yeah. So that's not bad. It's not lottery winning numbers, but it's not bad. So yeah.
And I mentioned, obviously, talking to Andy about the EGM. I know over the years there's been kind of, farcical EGMs and meetings.
Gazebo.
The gazebo, and what was the one as well inside Ibrox with everyone was sat miles away. This one feels different, obviously. This does feel like, I said to Andy, kind of tongue-in-cheek, but the dawn of a new era.
Yeah, well, there's a little bit of showbiz attached to this one, isn't there? The Rangers fans, Dan, I said it repeatedly over the course of last season, just a few weeks into the start of last season, I was saying what Rangers require if they're going to, give Celtic a proper fight, if they're going to wrestle around in the muck with Celtic over the course of this campaign or whatever campaign, they actually require regime change. And it was obvious for some time that the previous board was dysfunctional, fractured, too many egos, too much bad blood, a lack of trust, even inside their own room, never mind with the guys outside it. So Rangers really needed this regime change. They've got it, and it's an exciting regime change, isn't it? When you add in the American factor, the little bit of stardust from the San Francisco 49ers, it's all there. And I think Rangers fans will be, really interested to hear what's said tomorrow and by whom, what sort of promises are made, what sort of, just get a feel for the whole thing. It'll be interesting, just even in terms of getting a gauge for guys' personality. I've said previously, I'm told that Andrew Kavanagh, he's not really a guy that I think would be natural in front of the cameras or grabbing the headlines, but he hasn't been shy in terms of, since the Daily Record revealed that he was heading up this consortium to buy Rangers, he's not been hiding, has he? He's put himself up front at games. He's visited the stadium, he's visited the training ground. So, for a guy who's apparently naturally quite cautious and straight, he's going to have to try and feel comfortable now in this new position of speaking publicly, speaking to the supporters, engaging, and that'll be interesting. I feel that Parag Marath is a little bit more naturally a sort of showman, and he'll settle. He's slot right in. But it's just going to be so fascinating because it's the first chance that anybody's had to ask questions and hear it from the horse's mouth. What exactly does the future look like for Rangers under American owners? It's just, there's so much to take from it. And as I said earlier, not least from a Celtic perspective, because they'll be looking at this going, right, okay, how serious do we need to take this threat? And what do we need to do to guard against it? Because Celtic have got money in the bank. They've been squirreling rainy day money away for this very moment. You know, so now they've got to make an assessment themselves. How serious is this? And what does Celtic need to do to stay in front? So there's just so much. It's just utterly fascinating. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what the Americans have to say tomorrow.
Aye, it certainly won't be boring, and we'll be back to cover it all at 6 p.m. tomorrow on the Hotline Live. Thanks so much for all your comments. As ever, they've been great. I'll finish with this one. Keith, are you going out in your speedboat down the Clyde after this stream? I think he's referring to the sunglasses.
Oh. Right.
We had someone as well asking if you were on Miami Vice earlier, but I can't find that one now, which is annoying. But aye, there you go. Perfect way to finish, I think. Sorry about Burns' Wi-Fi for everyone watching as well. We'll try and get that sorted. Keith, sorry, here it is. Keith sitting there like he's in Miami Vice. There you go. There you go. Look at that. Perfect way to finish the show. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching at home. It's always a pleasure, Keith.
Yeah, see you tomorrow, Dan.
Good luck in the speedboat. And we'll be back tomorrow. Hope you can join us then. Cheers.